you really can learn how to position yourself as the go-to expert so that you can attract dreamy clients and I think dreamy opportunities too, and really take your business to the next level.
What's up, pals, and welcome back to another episode of The Passion Project. I'm your host, Hallee Smith, visual storyteller and creator on TikTok and YouTube. I hope that this podcast can inspire you to get out of your comfort zone and into your passion so that you can live a truly fulfilling life. And the best part about it is we're on this journey together. So let's go. Today, we have another interview episode. It is going to be my friend, Jennah Lear. She has also been my business coach a few different times throughout my time as an entrepreneur. She helps women in business grow a powerful brand that attracts dreamy clients. And today, we touch on all sorts of amazing topics like mental health as an entrepreneur, following your passions, tangible steps to funding your passions, attracting clients, how you can use the power of attraction, the law of attraction in your life, in your business, and in whatever your passion project may be. So we cover a lot of great topics today. I definitely recommend listening until the end. And without further ado, let's jump right in. Hello, Jennah. Welcome to The Passion Project.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm super excited to have you on. I gave a little intro before this about who you are, how we know each other. But I want to start by letting you take the mic and give us a little intro in your own words of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so thank you again. I'm super excited to be here. My name's Jennah. I own a company called Loui Studios, and I am a brand strategist. And what that means is I am on a big mission to help women entrepreneurs create and grow a powerful brand that you really can learn how to position yourself as the go-to expert so that you can attract dreamy clients and I think dreamy opportunities too, and really take your business to the next level. And I believe branding is like the missing piece. That's really my mission. I want everyone to know, especially purpose-driven women entrepreneurs to know that branding is the key to really leaning into growing your business at a higher level and also stepping into leadership. I want to see more women leaders in the world. So that's why I do what I do.
Yes. So I think in that intro, you touched on about every single thing that you're passionate about indirectly. Yeah. So tell us, in a listed out way, what would you say are your top passions? What are you most passionate about?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those things where it's like, what do you like to do? And passions was like, what are you willing to like take the streets for? Right.
Yes. What are you going to go to battle for? What are you going to fight over? Put on those boxing gloves.
Yes. So I think one of my biggest passions is seeing women step into their magic, right? And I've chosen to really guide women entrepreneurs and be a part of that world. And I myself, and what happens when we realize our purpose and we realize what we want to create in the world. And like, even just to be cliche a little bit, like even just to create a vision and a plan, like a woman with a plan is unstoppable. And I've seen women who can connect into who they are at a deeper level, create even bigger and more impactful things. I aim to do that. And I love to see other women doing it like yourself. And I want to see more women leaders do that so that we can create a bigger change and a bigger impact. So I think that's one of my biggest passions.
Yes, women leaders. And you're really good at putting things in place to give people a step-by-step plan to actually take action on what it is they're passionate about, what their movement is. And so I want to talk about that later. But before we get into that, I like to lead with journey a lot of times. So what is it that got you here? Because obviously a lot of people, they see from the outside the success people are having. So I like to lead with what got you here. It's not always as clean and perfect as it looks from the outside. So really, what got you started on this journey?
Yeah. Hot mess express and owning it.
Yes, exactly. We just got to own it. And like, no one thinks it's as bad as you do. Right.
Right. We're our own worst critic. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's also one of the things, like, as I talk about my journey and as I lead as a, business owner and helping others, I always try to say, like, it's not all kittens and rainbows, and
No,
and
it's not.
let's keep our eyes on that fact because I think it's very easy to
Right.
get caught up in things looking perfect because of, social media and all that stuff. And
Exactly.
it's not, that's not the real case, right? There's a lot of like breakdowns on the back end, needed beautiful breakdowns, but breakdowns just the same. And my journey is no different. I started out in corporate. I was in graphic design and marketing. I'm a graphic designer by trade, I like to say, and I was in the marketing
Me
department.
too.
Yeah,
Technically.
like as you're so creative, it's gonna be so cool, and then you're in like the back corner cube, like,
And you're like, where's the creativity at here? I
yes,
mean, not that I ever technically did corporate, but I had internships like that.
yeah, yeah, and it's like, for me, I looked around and I was like, is my life polyester gray walls, right? Like, is this what I want? And
Exactly.
for me, I didn't. And I didn't, in the beginning, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know where I was going to take things. But at the end of the day, I knew one thing. I knew this wasn't it. This is not what I hustled my way through college for. This is not what I worked my butt off for. And so, to keep a very long story short,
Yeah.
it's really was like listening to that piece and honoring that piece and realizing that if I don't listen, my life is going to be something that I'm not proud of.
It's
And
going to be
I'm not
different. Yeah.
happy.
Taking that action is going to be what makes the change, even though starting off, you didn't know what it was.
I didn't. Yeah, I didn't.
Most of us don't. And
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of people struggle with niching.
Yes. Yes.
Personally, I know that's why I do.
Yep. Yeah. Can I tell I don't think I've ever told you this. So I'll tell you, when I was first starting out, I had a really close like girlfriend in college, and we always talked about, like, friend that's a girl, like, and we always talked about like opening up our own nightclub, or just like
Ooh.
cool, like swanky,
Just
right?
something
Like,
fun. Yeah.
yeah, like a speakeasy or something like that. Like,
Ooh, yeah.
there was always these conversations of being a business owner and kind of doing my own thing throughout my journey. And when I got to that place where it was screaming inside of me, like, this isn't it, business was something that kept coming up. I was like, okay, I didn't have a business degree, but I took like marketing, I took some business courses in college. And then that's when I was like, maybe I should really lean into like getting some business knowledge and learning what this route is, and starting my own business. And so that's the path that I followed.
Yeah, I love that. And I talked about in one of my beginning episodes, I'm not anti-niche, because I talk to these multi-passionate people. Like I'm telling them it's okay right now to not have a niche. I think that exploration phase is often missed. So how do you think along that path, how did you find that thing where you're
Yeah.
able to say, this is my niche, but I'm still like, you're creative, your mind, I'm sure, wanders. I'm sure there's temptations to do other things outside your niche. How do you stay focused on that niche, but still kind of creative and explorative? I don't know if that's a word in that process.
For me, it was like having experiences. So when I took action and I joined the business program, and not really knowing all that I was in for, right? Like, that particular experience, I was with all women entrepreneurs, or, well, aspiring entrepreneurs. And there was an element within that program where women like genuinely wanted to see each other win. And like,
Love
like,
that. Yeah.
I really didn't grow up with a lot of examples like that. I saw women, competing for things, jobs.
Especially, I feel that too. Both of us were athletes.
Yes,
Yeah.
and athlete. Yeah, like, it's like, of
It's
course
where
you're
that's where it was
competing for
bred,
that.
honestly. And
Yeah,
then society doesn't make it better.
yeah, yeah. Well, yes, and it's like, yeah, like, in all aspects, there was this competition with other women, and not genuine support. Like, all through school, you never really know who's your friend. All the hormones raging and
Right.
all
Exactly. I
that, and
feel yes.
when you're young, and yeah, so I was in this program, and I had this experience of women truly supporting each other, and it lit something up in me. It was like it awakened.
Awakened. Yeah.
Thank you.
Struggling with
Something.
our words.
I know, it's all good. So yeah, and I think what I really want to say to drive this point home is like that experience changed me. And what I learned in that moment was like, if that changed me just to see what it's like for women to genuinely want to see other women thrive, that's my niche. Like, I know I want to serve. And based on what my business was and, how I serve and in marketing and design, I knew that it would be women business owners that I would really want to make a bigger impact for.
So it's almost, it's like an umbrella, the
Yeah.
women empowerment. It's overarching all that you do, because you do graphic design. You have your program CASP. I believe just wrote a book that we can talk more about at the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the umbrella that guides the mission behind everything you do. And that's something I've been learning lately, both from you and just from doing it, that you can have all these things you're interested in, but you still have this overarching message that guides you.
Yes. Yeah, I think the umbrella is the best way to put it, because niching really helps you. Here's my thing on niching really quick. So I'm pro niche because when you lean in, then you can call forward the people very strategically who you're looking for and they're looking for you, and it helps you pick up momentum to be able to scale faster. And then you can like broaden out, right? And I think that there's an element of what you were saying around having a clear lane, right? My lane is women entrepreneurs, women leaders, purpose driven, like the empowerment behind that. So even if you're not niching right now and you're still in trial and error, like find your lane and have fun there, play with it within that lane, and you're going to get clearer. That's how I did it.
Yes, I love that. I released an episode a few weeks ago, now that this is being posted, because, we're pre-recording this, but talking about there's in life and in business, there's no right or wrong decision per se, like they teach you in school. You have a test and there's A, B, and C, but in business, in exploring your interests, there's no one that's going to say, oh, that one's right, that one's wrong. You just kind of have to do what feels right and know that you're always exactly where you're supposed to be. And it's leading you along that journey.
Yeah, you're right on time, always. Yeah.
And the one thing you just said that I wanted to go deeper on, you mentioned client attraction. And I don't know if you said this when I asked you just now what you're passionate about, but I know you're passionate about client attraction. So let's go more into that and kind of talking about it in an all-encompassing way. Because I know client attraction is what you do, but for anyone listening, no matter what you do, you're attracting no matter what you're doing. So What is it? What is what is it about client attraction that you're passionate about?
I think it's this concept of like, okay, we're going to get a little conceptual, right?
We like to get conceptual.
I love it. We're not even going to touch strategy right now. We're going to talk conceptually, which is beautiful. It goes hand in hand with passion, right? So conceptually, when you think about client attraction, you're thinking about attracting, right? And there's a couple things there. It's like, one is I teach my clients, your clients only want two things. They want to be heard and seen, because we want that too, right? Like
everyone does. Yeah.
Everyone wants that. We want to be heard. We want to be seen. We want to be acknowledged. And I think that like, without going down a whole psychology lesson here, like,
right.
I'm a middle child. I'm the only girl in my family. Right?
I always have a hard time not going down psychology rabbit holes.
I know. Yeah. And it's like, there's probably a whole like child, psychology thing there, but like as a middle child and as, different experiences, being an introvert, being quiet, like I have this fiery part of me, but sometimes you got to pull it out if you want to see that part of Jennah. And so these pieces contribute to like, am I being heard? Am I being seen? And I think when it comes to being passionate about client attraction, it's really about just attracting those who hear you and see you because you hear and see them. And like, it's like dating, like finding your connection, finding your person.
That is so true. Honestly, everything is on a concept level, like dating.
It totally is.
Like networking, finding a manager, everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's this other piece of it too that I wanted to just say real quick is like, I'm very like, I can be stubborn. Like the corporate ladder, air quotes here. Like, I'm like, I don't want to climb the ladder. Like, I'm going to go around. And
I
I'm
want to
gonna
take matters into my own
Yeah.
hands.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm gonna like find my own way up, right? So when it comes to attracting, it's like, well, I don't want to chase people down the street and convince them that what I have or what I offer is like important or gonna change their life, right? Like I'd rather just have people come to me, right? Same with opportunities. I'd rather have opportunities just show up for me, and why not? And that's where we get into the whole other rabbit hole of like being worthy and manifestation and all of that. But yeah,
There's so
hopefully that
many
makes
rabbit
sense.
holes we could go down there. But the one thing you said too that I want to go deeper on, because I know we both have this in common, we recently talked about it, is
Yeah.
the shyness and the being an introvert.
Yes.
I don't know. I was going to do a whole episode on this actually, but we might as well dive in now because I think it's a lot of my listeners. I attract other shy people, I've noticed. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys listening will appreciate this. I'm
Yeah.
actually very shy. A lot of people are surprised to find that out because of
Yeah.
my videos.
Yeah.
But like you mentioned, I have this fire inside me that wants more, but you have to step out of your comfort zone in order to get that. And I
Yeah.
think that's just what you alluded to. Whether you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert, if you have an element of shyness, you have this little extra burden that you have to push past in order to go after your passions and start your business, whatever it may be, network with the people.
Yeah.
And so I love how you said that the attraction is what helps us introverts, us shy people. And I think that's why I was so drawn to how you teach business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that there's this element of, well, actually, let me tell you just a quick story. I think this puts it into context is like, I always say, I'm an introvert. I get my energy from like sweatpants on the couch and like being with my cat and watching a movie, right? Like that's where I fill my cup back up and get my energy. You get it, Hallee. So
Yes, I do.
and it doesn't mean I don't like being around people. It's just like that's how I recharge. And I have a very shy side. And for me, when I would walk into like these networking events, I could actually become a wallflower very quickly, right? Like if I don't know anybody there, or there's not like any kind of like lead icebreakers, right? Or like, it's just, you're like, it's almost like, why am I here? And so for me, when I realized, not to go too deep into business, but for the shy people that are looking at business, we're on that path. For me, what I realized in my journey is that stepping out and being visible and being bold with what I have to say and putting myself in front of a bunch of strangers is very uncomfortable. But I'd rather do it in my own element versus play this other game. Again, I don't climb ladders, right? Play
No
this
ladders
other
here.
game and go to these events where I don't have fun. Feel like I'm wasting my time. I feel like my insides are just like melting from anxiety, right? Like I'm not actually like getting what I need. So that's when I decided I'm going to start hosting my own networking events for my ideal audience. And we're going to incorporate networking because that's a part of it, but we're also going to incorporate learning and education and experiences together and deeper connection. And why I share that is because there's an element of putting yourself out there and getting uncomfortable that we all have to adhere to. And you
and
can
the feeling
also,
you get after that.
yes, and the feeling you get after that. And then you can feel really deflated. And so for me, I flipped the script. I made it work for me. I created my own networking events because when I'm creating my own networking events, then I set the tone for the energy in the room. I set the tone for the connection. I set the tone for like what we're here to do. And it worked. So yeah.
There's always the opportunity to create your own path. And so I was actually listening to Andy Pizza. I think you're the one that recommended his podcast to me. Andy J.
Yes.
Pizza. He's a dream guest, by the way, to have him
Oh
on
my
this
gosh.
podcast. So maybe he'll hear this. I don't know.
drop this link or like reference me when you get them on, because I'm like,
Yes, 100%. So I was listening to one of his episodes and he was talking about one of his big whys behind why he started
yeah,
his podcast is because he wanted to be a public speaker and he wanted to be able to teach what he was doing, and he wasn't getting those opportunities. They weren't coming to him. So he created it himself. And I started thinking of that, like, wow, I actually want to be a public speaker eventually. And I know you too, Jennah. So having this podcast allows that opportunity to practice and keep using your voice and just kind of create your own path. So if you're ever feeling stuck, if you feel like that opportunity is just not coming to you, create it. It's so possible.
I've created all of the opportunities that I wasn't getting. And as a result, I have a dream business.
I think that's a great way to get unstuck. If anybody's feeling stuck, there you go.
Yeah.
So switching gears a little bit here now, I want to talk to you about, because I think this is one of the biggest things I've learned from you, aside from the attraction and the messaging, is it's funding your passion project, funding what you want to go after, funding that business. I think that can be the most intimidating part, because it's like, well, I want to do this, but how?
Yeah.
So I guess from your perspective on your journey, where did you start with funding this? When you realized you had that passion, you want to go after it, where did you start?
Yeah. This is like, we talk about passions, like money and funding is one of them that I get to speak more into. So I love that question, because I everything I've just a precursor, like everything I've had, I've worked for. And so if I wanted to go on a trip, like I'm paying for it. If I wanted to, just even medical bills, like myself, like everything was on me. And I've learned a lot as a result of being that independent and self-sufficient. And when you want to create something that's going to take a lot of investment in time, energy, and money, you do take a step back and you're like, can I actually do this? And to trust yourself to be successful, so that you know that like the money you're putting in, you'll get back. Right. And
Trust, that is huge. One of my biggest problems is I will be afraid to ask for the help, or if it's a monetary, investment or contribution of any kind, I will feel almost guilty, or it makes that fear of going after it even a little bit more. Cause you're like, if I fail, if I, don't do good at this, then that someone else is going to be let down too.
Yeah. And I still get that. I still have that too. Right. It's that like, I can do it mentality.
Yeah.
And I'm going to share with you and your listeners something that shifted so much for me. And it's a lesson I keep learning because I'm stubborn. and like, get good at asking, right? When you get good at asking, you get good at receiving. And when you don't even ask, you're taking away someone else's opportunity to help you. So what would it look like to say, okay, yeah, I have this thing I want to do, a program, a business, a class. It costs money. I don't have all that money right now. Who can I ask?
How can you make it happen? What do you have to do? How can I make it
happen? How can I, and also how can I ask people around me? And what if they want to help me? And
it's so true that's a good way of thinking of it. Cause yeah, maybe they aren't. Okay. Podcast beans, we're doing this together. We're taking Jennah's advice together. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's like not even asking means taking away someone's opportunity to contribute to your success. And like, then you get into like the real mindset of like, how selfish is that? Right.
How selfish is that? But then also overcoming the fear of rejection.
Fear of rejection, and well, all of the things that go into it, right? Like,
yes.
And if you can leave this podcast with one thing when it comes to funding your own projects, passions, businesses, like ask and get good at asking. And it's okay to be really uncomfortable. I'm always uncomfortable asking. And I've learned so much about myself, and I've created so much because I just put my ego aside and I asked.
One of my favorite quotes I think originally one of my track coaches in high school told me this, but I'm pretty sure it's a quote by someone else. They said, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And ever since I heard that, I think that's why I'm so big about stepping out of your comfort zone, because you have to keep doing it. It's not just a one-time thing. Absolutely. You're going to have to keep doing it, especially if you have this shyness, this introversion on your side.
Yeah. I don't know if I told you this before when we were talking about this, but like, so I've had my business for about 7 years now. I've been uncomfortable for 7 years.
I feel I've been uncomfortable since I started my business 100%. There's always been this lingering thought in the back of my head, like, how easy would it be? I don't want to say easy and like downplay it, but like in terms of feeling in a place where I would be less uncomfortable. What if I just, got a corporate job and then I don't have to deal with all these stresses anymore? But I know I wouldn't be fulfilled going that route.
Yeah. I think honoring your passions and your visions and what you want to create and the route you want to go down, that's like the biggest act of self-love you could ever do in your lifetime.
That's so true. And I want to remind you guys too, listening, that it doesn't have to look one way. Like the way I described it, the way it happened for me, the way Jennah described it, the way it happened for her, it can look literally however you figure it out to be. You get to be that creative and you get to make it work. It doesn't have to look like me, Jennah, or whoever else you might be looking up to. Yeah. It's more about just taking that time to figure out what pieces you need to put in place for it to work for you. We have gone really deep into a lot of great directions. And the last thing I want to touch on that I know you're passionate about, again, I don't think you mentioned it in the beginning, but that is the mental health of entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And I'll also throw content creators in there too, because a lot of people, they don't realize that content creators are entrepreneurs. So content creators, entrepreneurs, mental health. What do you do to protect your mental health while you're stepping out of your comfort zone as an entrepreneur and you're doing all these things?
Yeah. It weighs on you, right? Like you, especially if you're like ambitious or you've got, like you set high expectations for yourself. I'm actually going to give a tip. This is what I do. This is what I teach my clients to do. You may have heard it, Hallee. Everybody do this. Like,
just do it.
Just do it. It's going to help you even just a little bit or a lot, right? Like self-care. And I know that's kind of a trendy word, but create a self-care SOP. SOP stands for Standard Operating Procedures.
How can you make self-care business?
How can you make self-care business, right? And it's like, just as much as you may make like going for a run a non-negotiable, or, like getting your smoothie a non-negotiable, or whatever, like fills your cup. Also, go to your self-care SOP and start looking at what are your non-negotiables. When I feel like, hopefully I can curse on here, like when I feel like that, like, okay, instead of spiraling and spending hours just like being in this really crappy mood and space, I'm going to go back to my self-care SOP and I'm going to look at the things that bring me joy. Like, okay, have I been outside for a walk today? Right? Did I go to the lake? I love going to the lake, right? Being by water. Did I go get a latte? Should I just spoil myself right now? Why not? If it's something I love and it brings me joy, like I get to do that for myself. And these pieces might seem really like trivial, but they add up. All the little pieces add up to how you're treating yourself. And I think how we treat ourselves on the journey of what we're creating is the most important piece of how we protect our mental health and our way of being and who we are and how we love on ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. That's so good. So basically, everybody, what are your non-negotiables that you are going to do to take care of yourself along the journey? Because stepping out of your comfort zone, it can get scary and you only have so much energy, right? Yeah. So remind yourself it's a journey and do those things as you can. But remember that those are the things that are going to get you to the next level and past, that wall that can kind of be there when you're nervous to step out of your comfort zone. So that's really good, Jennah. Thank you. I think that's a great tip to end on. Thank you so much for being on today. This was great. I think the listeners are going to love this and get so much out of it. Now, where can they find you? Because I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to connect and hear more about you and your message and, what you're all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me again. I love talking about this stuff and just my journey too. And if it helps anyone, then I've done my job. So yeah, connect with us. Blue Loui Studios. So blue like the color, BLUE, Loui, LOUI. Studio, STUDIO. It's with an S on Instagram, so Blue Loui Studios, and it's without the S on Facebook. And those are like the two social platforms you can connect with us on, and really get updates on, what we're doing, cool events we've got coming up, and if you want to learn more about branding and all of that jazz, that's what we can help you with. So yeah.
Awesome. And yes, everything that she just said, all those links will be in the show notes for you to follow more simply, unless you want to go look it up. But other than that, be on the lookout for Jennah's book that she just finished writing. Go give her a follow. Go subscribe. Not subscribed. Friend her on Facebook, whatever it may be.
There may be a description. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe subscribe. I don't know. Well, thanks again, Jennah, for being on. And I will see you guys all in the next episode. Peace out, pals.